Hello, goodbye. Is that what that means? Shalom. Lately, I guess for myself, just reading, rereading, looking into um, Messiah's words. And it seems the way uh, the Father gives truth is giving you some understanding, and then later you come back and read things and see new things, deeper things. And it's like a circle of learning, reward, life, circle of life instead of uh, the serpent symbol, uh, a snake eating its own tail, the circle of death, where it needs to destroy itself to live. It's a contradiction, even naturally. It's destroying itself. How is that living if it's only living to destroy itself? I got Luke 14 because that phrase, Messiah says, "You shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just." But in Luke 14, Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath. He went into the house of one of the rulers of the Pharisees to eat bread on the Sabbath, that they watched him closely, examining closely. See. On the Sabbath, well, there's not much to talk about in Christianity with Sabbath, Fourth commandment, who cares what it means? The Creator rested from his own works. It has to do with life and creation. That all comes from the Creator, and no big deal. No big deal, huh? But see, the man's heart needs healing. The old thing needs destroyed, and the new needs to come in, and no mixing of the new wine and wine skins with old, or else it'll burst. No mixing, or else it'll burst. The old wine and new wineskins will burst. When this world tries to bring together, as it's always working to do this thing, but the closer it gets up to a certain point, it's going to blow up because it can't mix divisions and languages. But if anyone can see spiritual language of the heart, evil things in the heart, all these divisions, and the religions coming together and saying it's okay, it's all one, no big deal, they're doing the impossible. It's going to blow up. And in this way, they bring the kingdom of heaven on earth. It's kind of messed up. But a child is curious. He wants to see if the Father destroys him, which he's already destroyed within. That's why they're doing that. But his patience is long suffering. But eventually, the sin reaches to the heavens, like we read. The Creator sees it and is displeased and doesn't like it and judges with destruction, repaying the nation on a whole for sin, a national judgment, I guess you could say, from him. And this world won't believe that. But that's why nations go away and are destroyed, because after such long doing so much evil, showing the patience and long suffering on lots of evil for generations and generations, and then finally Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. And it's one of the fruits of the Spirit of the Father is patience and long suffering. He's doing it every day. He's already that. Already is what he's teaching us to be and commanding his people to be. He already is, without a single hypocrisy. And so then hatred is no good, like we read even plainly. Having malice, envy, hatred. The Father doesn't have hatred. He doesn't have, to explain it, I guess, a little more, carnal hatred. The hatred of a man is not who he is. And hatred is no good. It's the fruit of the enemy, spirit of the enemy. the anti-Messiah spirit of this world. And so then hatred is evil. And the Father doesn't have a carnal hatred with evil intentions. His intentions are utterly, perfectly backwards from mankind, and his intentions are good for all creation. What he really wants to do and is doing and will do is all good, and it will have been through lots of evil that he did it, which magnifies who he is, his mercy, his power, all these other things, the fruits of the Spirit of who the Creator is. It shows it through evil. It shows things that wouldn't be able to see the same way without it. And so it's necessary in all his wisdom. He deemed it necessary then. But it's, down here, hell to pay. And it's like destruction, tribulation, distress, and wrath for everyone who does evil because of this judgment that became reality, spiritual judgment. But these things were always true. It just wasn't revealed in anybody. It wasn't revealed with Moses yet. What's revealed to Messiah, because the Father speaks to Moses with an actual voice, but not within, concerning heavenly spiritual things, but earthly natural things, the foundation, the footstool, the commandments, the laws, as written with letters, that if we command people to do with that kind of carnal command, it kills people. It doesn't help them. It's only through pride and self-righteousness, and it hurts people. It doesn't do anything good for them. Because the only keeping of any commandment, the only good and true way is actually starting to understand what it means. And then you do something out of that understanding with a heart and with a care and a want, and zero pride and self-righteousness through keeping something. And that's the difference between carnal and spiritual, and under the law and under his favor, And we could read about what they did to Messiah, watching him closely, and behold, there was a certain man before him who had dropsy, and Yahushua answering spoke to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" New text adds, or not. They're asking him. They ask with an evil heart. It's got to be seen and given to see. When they say this, it's asking out of hoping, wanting to try to catch him in a sin, and wanting that for somebody is evil, and doing evil works with the heart, with intention to destroy, kill, deceive, steal. And when they do this, it also makes them look good in their own mind, and Messiah bad and evil. But they kept silent. Oh, hold up a second. Messiah spoke to the lawyers and Pharisees, saying, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" Well, whatever I said, that was true, but I got mixed up in some other verses. It's wrong concerning this one little spot here. Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? But they kept silent, and he took him and healed him and let him go. I guess might as well say then, when Messiah is doing this, he's not wanting someone to expose them with intentions to kill, steal, and destroy, and hope they have sin so he can throw them down, but only out of teaching truth and wanting good and truth for someone's benefit. Two different things, man. But on the surface, they can look the same, kind of look the same on the outside. Five foolish, 5 wise virgins, kind of looking the same on the outside. One asking a question and it's wicked, and the other asking as Messiah is, and he's not doing evil by asking this question. They kept silence, and he took him and healed him and let him go. Then he answered them, saying, which of you, having a donkey or an ox that has fallen into a pit, will not immediately pull him out on the Sabbath? And they could not answer him regarding these things. And the reason why is because hypocrisy is exposed in them, because they do these works. But it's not about a donkey or ox. It's about what the heart's doing. So something with the donkey or ox could be important because of what the heart's doing, and that's how it's important. They could not answer him regarding these things. So he told a parable to those who were invited when he noted how they chose the best places, saying to them, and it's a parable, when you are invited by anyone to a wedding feast, do not sit down in the best place, lest one more honorable than you be invited by him, and he who invited you and him come and say to you, give place to this man, and then you begin with shame to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit down in the lowest place, so that when he who invited you comes, he may say to you, friend, go up higher. Then you will have glory in the presence of those who sit at the table with you. For whoever exalts himself will be humble, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Showing the spiritual truth through the parable and giving a picture, a natural picture, a parable of something spiritual he's teaching. It's a fact because the Creator throws down the prideful, and it's true because of the Creator's judgments, the Father's judgments. Whoever exalts himself in his own mind through pride will be humbled and put back down. It's going to be shameful. The higher someone goes, the more shame they're storing up on that great day. And he who humbles himself will be exalted the Father's way, and not through self-understanding with pride exalting self. If they would only humble themselves. Oh wow, I just saw a huge spider walking by. Where'd he come from? What on earth? Where was I? If they would only humble themselves, they would be lifted up, what they want, but doing it the evil way, pride. Because does the Father exalt his people with pride, which is sin, which he resists the proud? They're not able to discern between good and evil. Then he who said to him who invited him, when you give a dinner or a supper, do not ask your friends, your brothers, your relatives, nor rich neighbors, lest they also invite you back and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. And see, there's something going on with this giving, repaying, because the carnal only do the evil thing. Speaking of carnal, that don't know the Father at all. They only see and only have done and comprehend the darkness on this thing and everything else. Where they give, it's to put someone in debt. It's to need to be needed. It's to show that it's good, needing to show it's good, doing the opposite of what we're supposed to, not blowing the trumpet and making sure people see when you give and look at you blowing the trumpet. You know, you could picture it. It's like a guy on a hill blowing a trumpet. I'm good. Do, do, do. I'm good. Do, 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 do. I'm good. It's shameful. That's what this world's doing. It only understands that, and when it gives, it wants to put others in debt to step on them in its heart. The other person receiving knows something about this darkness, so it needs to repay quickly, because it also does this in its heart. And it's a war of who can look the best, is what it comes out sort of looking like. You know, I'm trying to do the best I can with saying the words, you know, but it's just always lacking, I guess, compared to the Father giving us. We can't see what his word means without him giving us truth, his Spirit. And it's a war like that, and they need to repay quickly, because no one ever gives freely, and they'll get instantly angry, but pretend they like it. And then they need to get you back real quickly, maybe even give a little more. And then the guy that receives back sees that he gave more back than what he gave originally to the other guy, then that makes him angry for the same reason in his heart. What's this guy trying to do? Wicked. And then they just do exactly what they claim the other one would say if they pointed a finger. You do evil, and they do the same and comprehend nothing else themselves. So it's just a bribe. Gifts are used for evil, to put in debt, to control, to need to be needed, to look better than the other. And the other person only understands the same things of the heart, and so does the same things back. And it's a war like that. It's real childish and bad and evil. Because if it's in this example, Messiah is saying, don't ask your friends, your brothers, your relatives, nor rich neighbors. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? Well, maybe someone's getting angry. That light is separating from darkness, the proper way and being set apart. It doesn't mean we can't speak to people or whatever. If someone were to attack you specifically about this, he doesn't invite me to my house, or this or that, carnal. And you were to read this, they would blow up in Christianity. They don't even know that it's in there. It's so bad. And even if they do, not understanding what it means, all of a sudden using it with the right meaning and understanding, they blow up and go, yeah. That's what they do with his word. When you just give whatever you've been given and quote a scripture or something Messiah says we can read, that they can read themselves, claiming to be Bible believing. They believe in the book. What, the literal book, the leather, the pages, the letters, is that it? Is that what that means only? Yes, that's all it means. What do they say this is for? What is Messiah saying? Is it a joke? Yeah, it must be a joke to them, to not do this thing because of this being repaid. And that's what someone will do. And when someone gets repaid, there's not a blessing from above, from the Father. And it's not the same thing, because doing something with a good heart, someone that can't repay, then there's a blessing like we read. Then you'll be blessed, and you'll be repaid. For those that can't repay you, you'll be repaid at the resurrection of the just. And how is it people don't even believe in the resurrection? Not actually. Of the just and the unjust. Messiah taught it. But it's in his word, and Messiah lived his word and lived the Father's word in truth and taught truth, nothing but truth he gets from the Father. He taught the resurrection of the just. And that's at the last great day. And that's storing up treasures, doing the Father's will and things like this, where you help people with the heart, with the right intentions, without sounding the trumpet, without doing all these other evil things. Because when someone does it with the intention of looking good, that by itself is evil, and also means at the same time when that's done that they didn't do it with the heart. Zero. They didn't do it to care. They have some other thing going on with their heart. Anytime something's done with false intentions, the real thing and real way wasn't done and is not in there. So there's no actual care or love, because we read in scripture, those apart from the Father, he doesn't call his people wicked, although they were wicked, yes. But the Father's righteousness he doesn't call wicked. But the wicked, the rich, hate the poor, and by their strength, carnally speaking strength, needing to rightly divide, that an unbeliever doesn't have any strength from the Father and spiritual strength, but carnally with money, kind of worldly strength, uses it to crush the poor and only can do evil with the poor. It does it to step on, to execute, to make it look way low so it can raise itself up in its own heart. And it despises seeing the poor, like we read. They're offended at the poor. And it's a strange thing that someone has to see and perceive. that comes from the Father on this thing, on what's going on in the mind and heart, on why it's offended at even seeing it. And it looks good. And this is the damnable thing, that not the Creator's purpose and way, but it's the evil itself. For everything that looks good, there's a way to do it evilly, and that's the only way man knows how to do. So the rich man can make himself look like he's doing good and cares about the poor person, but he despises him in his heart and lies in wait to destroy him by his strength. How come they don't believe that in the church world? It's not even possible for someone loaded without the Father to care about the poor. It's not possible, because they don't have a heart. They can only do the evil thing, which is raising themselves up and crushing someone else. And that's the only reason they give, to look good and crush the other guy. Oh, they've seen this through movies too. It bleeds out through the creation and through the darkness even. And that's what's starting to see darkness as light, seeing right through it as light, starting to see the evil works and see through it, and seeing true teaching and true good things through the darkness even. Not that the darkness is ever doing good works, but that's a different thing. And so there's that war going on with someone giving gifts. Careful with gifts, because someone that doesn't know the Father, when they give you a gift, they're trying to do something else, anything but freely giving you a gift because they love and care about you. Anything but that, because that's the right thing for any gift. For gifts, not speaking of any specific gift, just the spiritual thing of giving. It's not doing that the right way, because man can't do that. Eve gives fruit to Adam that looks good. It looks good. But she's saying, eat sin, eat judgment. And Adam's weak. And that's his massive problem. He's not the spiritual head. And so he eats judgment and dies also, and breaks the Creator's voice, and is taken to slavery by the woman, because the true way is man is under Messiah's head, and he's the spiritual head of the house, and the head of woman, and the Messiah is the head of man, and the Father's the head of all. And so there's a spiritual thing to understand and see. On a spiritual head, there is a punishment, and that's what this world is, for not doing that right, showing what evil is. They don't know, though. They don't know the Father. Adam doesn't know. And so Adam is punished himself for not being the spiritual head, and chastising the woman, say, why do you do evil? Put this fruit away. Put these good works, this evil works that she's doing to give, break. The point is, don't eat this fruit. That's the command. It doesn't matter about the fruit. It only matters, any given thing matters in that it's connected to the heart. That's how it only matters. But putting that aside all by itself, it doesn't matter what it is here. The point is the Creator says something to do, and it's to hear his voice. To break it is sin. And Eve breaks it, is deceived by the serpent, and sees the serpent face to face. This is a teaching. This is a spiritual reality. The woman sees the enemy clear, face to face, in spirit. But that's what it looks like if you were to give a picture. It's not good. It's just, it is what it is. It's not my truth. Didn't make it up. People hate it. Too bad. The world will hate it. Carnal women will hate it. Carnal man will hate it, because he's Adam. He's also doing what Adam did, not able to see the difference, not listening to the Creator's voice, and not being the head, not being out of a true love and care. It would be chastising and correcting, and not allowing evil to be put up with, without rebuking and saying something and rebuking strongly. And so Eve takes the fruit, which represents works, and this is an evil work, because the Creator says, don't do this. And so she does it. And now she can't be the only one in judgment and destruction. She can't be the only one that's deceived and in destruction and darkness. So she needs to give that to Adam to do also. And this is how death works. It wants others to be dead just like them. It's sick, it's evil, it's corrupt. It's the truth. It's the truth. Someone in slavery wants others to join them. They even say in this world, misery loves company. There's those words, there's truth to those words. Do they understand it? Do they really understand it? And so then someone in prison is jealous of seeing someone else in prison because they're watching them roam free compared to being trapped in a prison. And there's envy and hatred. For what? Just for being free. The guy outside not doing anything to the guy inside in prison to warrant some kind of wicked hatred and evil. Not that anything ever does. Never supposed to. That's what we're needing to learn to do is not do evil, period, even if we get evil done to us. But just to bring it out, it's a severe envy which causes murderous hatred, which causes all kinds of other things that this person in prison wants to do now, just for someone being out of prison. That's it. And I'm giving the example of the perfect thing where the person outside of prison didn't do any evil to the guy in prison, and yet there's a murderous hatred because of the envy Cain has for Abel. That's what's happening. The command is don't envy. So what does mankind do perfectly in the heart? He envies about all kinds of things. Don't envy your neighbor. What is in the heart of mankind without failure? Envying people's friends and neighbors and things. What about with women? Yeah, a nasty thing going on with that too. Just constantly envy. It's evil. It's supposed to be overcoming envy. But how do you overcome envy? By saying, okay, read this commandment as per natural as Moses, and now go and scream at someone, don't envy. And, we don't envy over here because we say we don't, because we're saying we keep the commandments. Therefore, we keep them. And then they say, don't envy to someone else, not seeing what spiritually envy really is and how often it's being done. They end up being hypocrites and eating judgment and end up killing people, spiritually killing and destroying to those that they command to don't envy in this case, as an example. That they themselves not seeing what it means and overcoming it. How will it help the other? You say you're blind for a guide to the blind. How do we read that? Like this is what it's supposed to be, but the people are only making a show for it in Jerusalem. Messiah is saying something about a guide. You believe or the apostle. I'm mixed up where exactly it is. It doesn't matter. When we read, you say, you believe you're a guide to the blind and to this and that, the oracles of the Creator and having all this, and it's with zero knowledge, and it's only done evilly, then it's worthless. And the commandments are no good and worthless for that person. Because to understand envy, it must be given. This is the reality of the truth of the commandments, is what he's shown me. All things must be given. To really see what envy is must be given. And then there's power that needs to be given to do what we start understanding and to stop envying. There's power to cut off that thing that used to envy, sin, cut off some flesh, and then start overcoming it. So then commanding someone, don't envy, is impossible. They just commanded the impossible, and that's how it kills. That's how the letters kill, is because no one can do it, but they believe in their heart already they're doing it through pride and self-righteousness. Telling other people to do this or that the same, and they're not doing it themselves. Don't you, who teaches the law, break it? As Messiah said right to their face, don't you who teach the law, and yet none of you keeps it? When he says that, he's not speaking of the carnal man's understanding of keeping it. I don't know where that is right now. Matthew, Mark, maybe multiple times, different accounts of it in the gospel accounts, but this is what he said. Just asking, don't you teach the law? Looking good, looking right or something, making a show. And yet none of you keeps it. He's just speaking truth. That's it. But it will make them rage. People rage because they're being exposed for teaching lies and not even doing it themselves as hypocrite. My goodness, is there a lot to overcome constantly. Don't even know what I need to know, what needs to overcome. If we did, it would be too much of a burden. So he gives us a little here, a little there. And we read that in scripture for that reason. Precept upon precept upon precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, with his word, and not remembering literal words or something, Bible study, studying words and remembering words. But here a little, there a little on doing and understanding his word and what it means to live it. A little here, a little there. That's how he does it. And so it's Messiah's teaching, even through this, you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. That's storing up treasure right there, if someone could see it. Doing good works, being blessed even now, and then you shall be repaid at the resurrection of that's just storing up treasure right there, because someone couldn't pay you back. And the intention shouldn't be corrupt on this. It can't be corrupt on this. It's the intention to do what's right only. And then the end result of that ends up being someone can't repay you and you store up treasures for doing this thing right. It shouldn't be intentions all by itself to, have some kind of crooked thing going on here about doing good to those that can't repay you just for that sake and just for storing up treasure. It has to be done the right way. And that's it. That's the only way, which is wanting to actually do what's right and help. And the result of that, when it's done right, is blessed now and then storing up treasures in heaven for the resurrection of the just. When one of those who sat at the table with him heard these things, he said to him, blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of Elohim. Then he said to him, a certain man gave a great supper and invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, come, for all things are now ready. But they all with one accord began to make excuses. He's teaching. A certain man, this is another parable on the things that are now and things to come, and the wedding, the covenant with him. And all things are ready, and you're invited now for the wedding day, on a day in the future. Come now, for all things are ready. But they all with one accord began to make excuses. The first said to him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must go and see it. I ask to have me excused. He's talking about what the heart's doing here. It doesn't matter if it's religion or this or that or Christianity. What is the heart doing? Running, making excuses. And that's what people will do. Exactly this, because this is whatever is true and good and right. Mankind will be doing the opposite. And we'll see it in creation. We'll see it in this world. The exact opposite continually. And so it's not that the ground is evil by itself, or a piece of ground. He will ask to be excused. And another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I'm going to test them. I ask to have me excused. It's not that the 5 oxen are evil or something all by itself. It's the love for it. It's seeking it. Its mind is set on worldly, carnal things that are fading away and perishing. Because the evil in this world, that is evil, and that's going away. And it's the love for the things in the world, loving the world and the things in it. And so then, in this case, example, it's not about the oxen by itself. A love for that, and I got to test them. I ask you have me excused, and that, excuse me from this. Imagine the table, someone sitting, oh, I got to go. I'm excused, sorry. All right. Still another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. Isn't that something? I got me a family and a wife, That's my excuse for not wanting to seek the kingdom, do the Father's will. Got to test that too. It's the heart and what it's doing. It's not that a wife or something is evil all by itself to have. Obviously not. But it's all being done through deception and evil. That's more important than learning and growing and obeying the Father's voice to do good works. And it's loving things that are perishing and not doing good works. It cares more about that. That's why the love for the Creator has to be way far above everything else. It's so far above that it's like everything else compared to it. The love for the Creator is hatred. And Messiah says exactly that. If you don't hate mother, brother, father, sister, wife, even your own life, you have nothing to do with me. Can't be a disciple, he says. And that's the command we read. What is that? Just letters. Yeah, it means something. One of the great commands. Love the Creator with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. However we read the words there has to be way above and real above all things else. And then it will be perceived, someone, as hating those that don't love the Creator. It's backwards. It's them who hate the Creator and don't love people. But they'll say and perceive it as hatred. Love for the Creator and Messiah. They'll perceive and call it evil and hatred. Yes, they do. So that servant came and reported these things to his master. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, "Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city and bring in here the poor and the maimed and the lame and the blind." And the servant said, "Master, it is done as you commanded, and still there is room." Then the master said to the servant, "Go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say to you that none of those men who are invited shall taste my supper." Wow, what is he saying here? How few, a precious few. The servant goes out in the example a couple times, comes back, says there's plenty of room, and still there's room. And then Messiah says, "Go out again to the highways, hedges, and compel them to come in. For I say to you that none of those men who were invited shall taste my supper." They didn't end up believing. It's teaching how few it is, The Father doesn't give us opportunity. There's no reality in pride through his truth. So the works will line up with it. The vast majority not believing and rejecting and making excuses doesn't allow us to get, I'm not saying literally, but the truth lining up with these things. The reality is no one believing, no one coming, excuses, just so few. And so it doesn't give us room to boast even. That's what I'm trying to say. But the opposite is true with this world. That's the very thing they're going for. Numbers and people as merchandise to boast in and get worshipped by them and praised for how much work and good they did. And it's actually damnation, judgment. And it's actually saving people and keeping into judgment, destroying them while they think they're saving them. They don't take any of it, his word, seriously. Don't know. They don't care. They believe they can just join a religion, read the Bible or something, and now we know everything. Now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me," there it is, "and does not," well, he's connecting it with the above and the love for the Father. And if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, yes, and his own life, his own soul, also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross, his stake, and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, starting to believe and do, and then shrink back and run away, not calculating the cost? lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. What king going to make war against another king does not sit down first and consider whether he's able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. There's some stunning teaching and words here. Who is caring in this world? A bunch of examples and parables, and then connecting it all. Cannot be his disciple. And then salt is good, but if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? So salt is good, but if it's lost its flavor, it's not even salt anymore. It is neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill, but men throw it out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. He who has spiritual ears to hear, let him hear. For all the others in carnal and religion, they can read this and read, he who has ears to hear, and let him hear, and they don't hear anything. It's for those that have ears. It's like a little special calling through his word for his people, saying right to us, his people that want to do the Father's will and are learning and growing. Whoever has an ear to hear, let him hear, because the rest won't. And we read that more than once, and we see it in Revelation. To hear these words, what does it mean? What to do? We have to learn from the Father what to do and what this means. Salt's a preservative. It's worthless if it can't even do what it's supposed to do. And connecting with these other examples of starting something and not finishing it, forsaking everything we have, cannot be my disciple. That's got to be real in the heart. That's what we do. And with all his truth, a carnal man can just say, because he doesn't see spiritual things, just natural. Yeah, I do that. Okay. And then they'll just do that. They'll just see nothing. Huge, important teachings and words. Yeah, I do that. It's fine. Good. Yeah, I do that. And it goes away. That's it. That's what they'll do. Going up a little back, the 5 yoke of oxen making excuses. The married to woman making excuses. And what's the other one? Or is it just the 2? Oh, a piece of ground. Yes, people love that. Must go and see it. Let me be excused. See, these things the world is taking them away from seeking the kingdom. The problem is the love in the heart for these things and having no heart at all for the Creator and seeking the kingdom and getting to know who he is and to do his will. Doesn't care at all. It's not forsaking its yoke of oxen. It's not forsaking the ground. It's not forsaking the woman being married. And any other example is the same spiritual thing going inside when it's done. The heart is not there, and that's what the command is. Love the Creator with all the heart, mind, soul. Seek the Creator with everything that we have. And that's a miracle. That's a gift to do, but nevertheless needs to be done. And those that don't are being exposed as not knowing him. And then they hate him. No one can fake real with the heart. It's huge. It's a big deal. The carnal man doesn't see that at all. And he just will say, yeah, I do all this. I'm good. They don't want to hear it. They don't even want to hear the words. It's just whatever they don't want, the Father gives, and it's taken from them so that they can get what they want, which is nothing to do with him. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to learn. They don't want to see anything. They don't want to seek him. Well, then so it is. That's the reality. Continually. At no point believing getting to know, do these things and learn them, what they mean. They can't see it, though, that the Creator cannot be mocked. Two people could be standing, one foolish virgin, one wise virgin. And the one is coming to understanding and doing these things and not worshiping the world, loving the world and the things in it, and taking seriously these words and learning them, and not saying, making excuses because of a piece of ground or this or that or a woman or oxen or cars or boats or whatever. That's the world, the weeds choking it out. We're reading about it right here in the parable of the world. The weeds choke out the little plant because its heart and cares are for those things. And that's the problem in sin. Can't be his people, can't be his disciple, can't be a follower of Messiah. I'm sure that someone somewhere and groups will make up categories to get their way around this narrow gate and create their own gate by saying and creating real quick to do what? Justify their own way. And then when they create their own way, they say, I go through this way. They create their own right way and say, I go through it. It creates whatever it wants, not coming from above, no permission from above, just making things up, a lie, so that it fits its own definition of the door. It creates its own definition of the door and makes itself walk through it and says, I do that, therefore I'm good. And it walks away believing it's a God and it's mine. It just did that. Created out of thin air, making up its own truth instead of submitting to the Creator to do his will, not making things up for self and doing the rebellious thing and way. An example of, like, at least here, creating something because it's not liking what it's hearing, it's being exposed, and the truth is just exposing someone about their love for the world and the things in it, so makes its own gate and just makes something up. I had something in mind exactly what to say that's an example of making that I'm lost it a little here. Doesn't really matter, just the fact that that's being done in the heart. But I wanted to use an example, though. Yeah, I don't know. I lost the specific example of just creating your own thing and making it up, and then say I go through the door after it creates a false door. Making some kind of excuse, doing exactly what we're reading here, and fulfilling it and not seeing they're doing exactly what they're reading. To make an excuse that they're not doing these things to justify and make them okay. And any example, anything created, doesn't matter what it is, as long as, that's the same heart thing, justifying and making something up so that it justifies man's own way, which is connected to the scripture where we read, in the man's eyes, a way seems right to the man's eyes. He just creates his own path, but in the end of it leads to death. Man can't create his own way with life. Only death and destruction, blinding and delusion and deception, and fatherless without him. And it's a crooked path already, and the Creator needs to make it straight for us, and he does the miracle as we go, making something straight that we couldn't see possible. This could be all kinds of things and anything, overcoming a sin, understanding something, whatever it is in life, the crooked path, unable to make straight ourselves. So we wait and believe the Creator will make it straight and make a way somehow, some way. That's what faith is. Not knowing is what faith is. What will happen or what to do, even. But just believing and putting it on him with our heart for real, that he'll do it somehow. And then he does to those that do this. The precious faith is tested to be precious more than gold. The Father is testing, and there's a testing or heat or pressure on everyone, and it makes them be offended, and it separates them spiritually from the sheep. And when goats separated the goats from the sheep, it's already true and happening. It's ever present, his judgment and the separation and division between the two things. It's someone that's taken and lost already spiritually. They've already lost the race. There's no reality to what they think is true, and what they're doing is good. Already losing the race and being exposed on judgment as being false and wretched, poor, blind, miserable, and naked spiritually, in destruction, not doing what was right after all, nothing. It's going to be an utter shock. What it's believing and thinking and it thinks it has and gave itself doesn't matter. It will all be for vanity, and worthless. The kingdoms of this world are 180 in every way, shape, and form spiritually from the kingdom of heaven. All its ways and beliefs are corrupt, and why and how, with intentions it does things, is corrupt. But it makes it sound like it understands when it says words and serpent wisdom that's there to sound good and make people go, wow, wow. They won't be going, wow, with the Father's truth. They'd be getting and buckling on their knees with fear and trembling at his word, like we read. That's what he's looking at, those who fear and tremble at his word. They're not going, wow, that was great. What a great thing the false prophet just did, just to wow people. Some carnal, worthless thing that's literally worthless and means nothing. It's only saying that to wow people and not even understanding the very words it even says itself. Because darkness doesn't understand itself. You would think it would specialize, but it's actually the light and the Father and those he gives to be lights. The light knows about the darkness, learning about the darkness that darkness itself doesn't even know why it does things. And so the darkness starts being seen through as if it's light anyways. That's what giving us sight and healing our sight. Darkness comes on Egypt, pitch black darkness. And Egypt, it's not about one nation, Egypt, representing the world, and spiritually the whole world is that, Egypt, Sodom, or any other, representing this. This world is spiritually Egypt, and it's in darkness. I think that's it. Fear of the Creator is the beginning of knowledge, wisdom from him, the proper fear. So then what this world does not have this proper fear. There's no fear in their eyes, like we read. But it's a cowardly fear coming through darkness and sin, and not the proper kind of fear for the Creator. And I've seen this thing, making excuses. It's what mankind does to justify whatever it does. If it's love of money in the heart, and even doing things that are obviously, it will just talk about the looks. Okay, someone who has more and loves money and's got a bunch of things going on. The thing is the money, the love of money in the heart is the real thing. So that person if they were told something about this love of money. It's this Christian or that Christian were told. They would create their own scenario, their own law and justification, and say, this is the definition of loving money. And then saying to self, I'm not that, because this is the definition and this is what it is. And I'm not that. I go through the door of what I'm not. Or at all times, just saying what it does is good and justifying it. And that's how quickly and simply they do that. It just acted as if it's God right there, making something up to make it look good and righteous, and that it, to hide that it loves money in the heart. And this is done with any sin, making up its own laws and then its own straw man for the sake of destroying something, setting it up to be destroyed. To destroy it is evil and deception. It's for the purpose of throwing down truth and throwing down someone to throw down what they hate hearing. Luke 15, look at the heart of the Pharisees and scribes complained, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. They said that out of trying to expose that he's doing evil and sin and is wicked. That's why they said this man receives sinners and eats with them. That's the intention of their heart. That's it. Because they're being exposed, they need to find something that he's doing that's evil. The only reason they said those words, this man receives sinners and eats with them. This is what people do every day, all day long, constantly. This is the only thing they can do to Messiah's people, to the Father, ultimately. Darkness can't do good to light. And that's it. That's why they said that. As if he's doing some kind of great evil. And they don't do this. They're the examples of doing that perfectly, being spiritually one with sinners and eating with them. They do that. They receive sinners in their heart and are one with them in their heart and eat with them and are one in and of this world. But they're accusing Messiah when they see him doing good works of being this, just to throw him down and cover themselves, because that's what they do perfectly in their heart. They're not being set apart and coming out of her, my people. They're one with darkness. They receive in their heart sinners, meaning, the carnal evil way, believing evil is good and not being worried about being set apart and one with someone. What man of you having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 to go after one which is lost until he finds it? See how it seems like he doesn't answer directly, but he is actually. It's as direct as it can get, spiritually speaking, of what their heart's doing. It's a very direct, it's a perfectly direct answer, but it doesn't sound or look like it to the carnal man. So to the carnal man, Messiah is responding, and they're going to just claim, because it looks like it a little to them, you didn't answer the question. You're running away. Oh, you didn't answer my questions. And we're answering it as direct according to what we've been given, and as direct as it can be, but speaking spiritual words and answering it directly. But that's not answering to them. It's amazing. He's answering them on receiving sinners and eating with them as a problem to them, as if they don't do that. But they're saying it's some kind of sin that Messiah is doing. And now he gives them the parable. When he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 persons who don't need repentance. A little righteous mockery once again. That sinner needs help. He's lost, and Messiah came to save that which was lost. And they're accusing him of doing evil. One of the very works Messiah's people are supposed to be learning to do with a heart, leading to the truth. Not that we literally save someone, but through the works that Father gives us. Someone might believe and be saved in that moment, receiving his Spirit and life. And the Pharisees are prideful, puffed up, and extraordinarily self-righteous. What did they think there was? Righteous people in this world? It never existed. Of course, he's not going to reject sinners. He's not being one with them like they are. What they claim they're doing perfectly, evilly. And what Messiah is doing is not being one with them spiritually. But knowing that if you had to go away and not even talk to them, you'd have to be removed from this world. And we read about that. That's what the Pharisees are saying. What should happen? Confusion. It doesn't make sense. It's a lie. It's hypocrisy. It's contradiction. It's hatred. It's murder. It's everything that's evil. What did they think? That people didn't need healing? The blind, the sick, the poor, the sinners? That's what Messiah is doing here. And so he gives it, which of you, having 100 sheep, if one of them is lost, wouldn't you leave all these other things to go and save that one which is lost? You hypocrites. He's answering utterly directly, perfectly, spiritually directly, but to them it's not, because they can't understand parables. So it sounds like Messiah's, to them, insane and not answering their question, as I've experienced the same too. That's what they will claim. Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, search carefully until she finds it? And when she found it, she calls her friends and neighbors, saying together, saying, rejoice with me, for I have found the piece which I lost. Likewise, I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of Elohim over one sinner who repents. It's amazing what they do. It's stupid. It's self-defeating and contradicting. I think I'll stop there. I think that's all I got. I mean, just seeing these things on what the carnal man does, what they did to Messiah, are the perfect examples that we have here to read, to learn and understand. The Father needs to give us is how they did works towards Messiah is what people are constantly doing, and that's what they'll do to Messiah's people. Yes, even the religious, many called, will do these very things, as they are examples, the Pharisees, of doing that. The ones who stoned the true prophets, the false prophets, it's always been true. They killed Zechariah between the temple, or is that what I read there? The false prophets stoning the true prophets. Cain killing Abel, and all the other examples in Scripture. Over and over, it's been true. The pride is steaming, and its pride is connected with the Father's blinding judgment, blinding people. They think they're wise while they do this, and think they're making Messiah out to be an utter fool and doing evil and sin. And it's only on their part. It's only them sinning and doing evil and having wicked intentions with no care or love, and being exposed as an utter hypocrite, doing perfectly what they accuse of, eating with sinners, being one with them. That's what they do. The church world, one with the beast, the harlot and the beast, one. Spiritually, in that sense, eating with sinners and taking them in and speaking with them, but they're one, not being set apart. They're breaking it perfectly. So that's all they can understand when they see the right way, as Messiah is doing. The only thing they can do to hide and protect themselves is accuse what the only thing they understand, which is evil, and what they do. And while they do it, Father exposes who and what they are, and the blinding stupidity of evil and pride, and they don't see any of it. I would only hope that that just causes a proper fear in the Creator to seek out these things and remove leaven and blinding and delusions and wickedness in somebody. And will he not answer for those that do this with their heart? But the stunning problem is those that don't know the Father, they're so blinded in their pride, they can never pray like that and ask the Father with their heart, because they already truly in their heart believe they see and don't need healing. All right. I guess that's it for the third or fourth time. Peace, take care, seek truth from our Creator above and Messiah.